actually in certain investment and deals, if you actually bet it on the right company, the return profile can still look pretty attractive, even at the billion-dollar fund size.
Jessie Guo is an investment partner at Next Legacy, and this is how she decides which funds get backed.
We like that in our portfolio, we will have a diversified exposure and allocation into different profiles. Currently in our portfolio, we probably roughly have a quarter-ish of our capital in, we say, those platform venture firms, where currently we see a lot of Anthropic, SpaceX, like OpenAI, a lot of these giant big tech companies that these platform venture firms have invested. We also have a dedicated emerging manager from the fund, building that early trust with the founder. That can help them to identify and get into the next generation of Anthropic.
We also talk about Next Legacy's commitment to donating 100% of their fund distributions to charity, and the numbers speak for themselves.
There's very few firms that actually walk the talk. I think the number that I had seen is over $2 billion.
We just crossed over $3 billion.
That's incredible. You're generating real alpha, you're backing real firms, but you're finding ways of recontributing that into the ecosystems that mean the most. Hey everybody, welcome back to LP Uncovered, the podcast where we spend time with the people behind the allocator industries that we all work closely with. Incredibly special episode with Jessie, who's an investment partner at Next Legacy. For those of y'all that aren't familiar, Next Legacy is a really unique firm. It's a combination and merger between NextPlay and Legacy Partners. Legacy Partners has been around for a while, very philanthropic, has an incredible story in how they work with their LP allocators and how they invest. And NextPlay was started by a group that was really cultivating a network of philanthropists, athletes, entertainers, and they blended this together in a beautiful way about 3 years ago. Jessie talks a lot about how they engage in their community, how they think about investing, but also we spent a ton of time on her background. Prior to coming to the US, she built out one of the first fund of funds in China with CICC, a large investment bank. And since then, she's been spending a large amount, pretty much exclusively of her career as an LP allocator. We get a ton of insights on what matters, how they're thinking about the market today, and how to stand out as a GP in this space. Excited to have you learn more from Jessie. Jessie, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you, Marcos. Great to see you and look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, same here. I feel like I learn a ton every time that we connect. I'm glad that we can record it this time. And I would assume that a lot of folks know who Next Legacy is. But if you don't mind, just give us a high-level overview on Next Legacy, and then we'll kind of back into how you created your career there.
Yeah, sure. Sounds great. So Next Legacy, we have been around since 1999. So it's a long time. And it's a combination of two prior firms, Legacy Venture, which started back in 1999 and really has been onto the mission to help the community of philanthropists and nonprofit organizations to invest in early stage venture. And NextPlay Capital was started over a decade ago on the mission to help the community of leaders from the sports and entertainment industries to invest in early stage venture. So we announced Next Legacy Partners 3 years ago and continue to serve the combined community of philanthropists and athletes into early stage venture. The entire firm's focus is venture capital, so 100% in venture. I don't need to worry about multi-asset class allocation. Regardless of up cycle, down cycle, it's all venture. And we focus on early stage, generalist within the technology space. And you also asked how I got into our team. So it's actually a fun story. I initially started my career back in Beijing in China, also on the LP side. And I was helping the high net worth individuals to invest in early stage venture funds. And once I moved to the US as an immigrant and wanted to continue my career in the US, I found our team. I was like, wow, I really like the mission driven organization, like how I can, on one hand, do the job that I'm professionally interested in, but also knowing that, all the work we do can help to play a small part to make the world a better place. So our flagship fund of fund, which all of our investors in that fund are philanthropic individuals, families, nonprofit organizations, and they promise to donate 100% of the distributions from our fund to nonprofit causes that they are passionate about. So we invest to knock on the wood, the best managers, and they donate so we can amplify their donations. That's really what drew me into our team. So I literally cold emailed our founder, and
Nice.
he was so kind to respond to my email on the same day. And Russ is really, I'm really grateful for him. So here I am, 12 years later, still on the team.
I love that, Jesse. And what's so funny is from these conversations, one of the big takeaways is like cold emails don't work. Get warm intros. Not in this case. Like it's that's awesome. The initiative that you took to reach out and the legacy that it's created for you and for the firm. I almost want to start a little bit further back though. So you mentioned CICC is a large investment bank in China. You are based in Beijing. For folks that aren't familiar, that's the largest investment bank in China, very active at a time when there's a lot going on. I'm curious, how did you first make your way into CICC? And I also know you were hands-on in launching a lot of the fund-to-fund initiatives. So what was it like in those early days there, really fund of funds and venture being as much of a category as it is today?
Yeah, now that you ask and look back, that was a fun time. I was initially got into CICC through an internship, just like, as a finance major, like back in 2008, every top student at college wants to go to iBanking or consulting. And I tried
Yes.
consulting and feels like not my like good fit for me. So I wanted to try investment banking also. And once I got to know CICC, I realized actually the traditional investment banking business is not as exciting or like new to me. And at that time, they started to build the wealth management business within CICC. Even so, their traditional initial revenue mostly come from iBanking commission and all that. And they started to build the investment management pillar where you can also, AUM based, like fee based business. And I thought that's a very interesting opportunity and domain for me to, as a early career young Jessie, to contribute to and to be part of almost like a startup team within a big organizations. Also, a backdrop on that is in 2007, the limited partnership law was issued in China. Previously, there's the limited partner structure was actually not fully like officialized or legalized in China. So you can do venture funds, but it's not on the now what we see, the LP structure.
Interesting. And I'm curious, what did that law, the LP law, what did that enable? Was it just more individuals can now become limited partner investors, or just more clarity around what designates that category?
Yeah, so it's basically how China learned from US and other countries to finally make, like, now to us it's like so common, right? It's a limited partnership structure for any normal venture fund. That was finally put on paper in China back in 2007. So with that, it enabled, as you can imagine, the explosion of the formation of the venture funds. And previously, it's a little bit more complicated to have a venture fund set up. Say if you are an emerging manager or a smaller team, it's a little bit too complicated and difficult. But after the law, it's much more easier. So there's an explosion of venture capital funds being formed in China. And also another context there is like back then, 70% of the LP base in China were individuals. It's very different.
Wow.
Like, I remember I was thinking, wow, like all these individuals who are interested in venture funds, how can they select all these VC funds? And before CICC, I was also advising technology startups to raise capital from VC funds around that time. So I was already thinking about the VC fund I was trying to pitch the clients to, how big of the quality variance it was. So that's where initially the manager selection needs came out. And I was pretty lucky that I had a supervisor and manager back then. And she was very sensitive to new opportunities. She was the one that actually led a small group of people, like I'm one of the 4 people who helped CICC to start like the experiment of the fund-of-fund business, including helping their wealth management clients to invest in venture capital funds. Initially, like a Cambridge Associates model as advisory. And then eventually we started to craft internal business plan for a venture fund. And now obviously CICC has a very big venture fund. But when we were initially working on that, it were all started from a few family like high net worth clients.
Yeah, pretty incredible too, just in the stage of innovation within China, right? That's where you really started to see a lot of payments infrastructure, communications infrastructure really start to take off from that time period. So good time to pass that along and give more folks exposure to the upsides that came. But for you started the practice and you came to the US. So you came to UC Davis, home of the Aggies, got an MBA. What prompted you to make that jump? And certainly what pulled you back into, the fund-to-fund space?
All the homework dating back to all these years.
I actually, so I went to high school and spent a lot of time in Sacramento. So I know that the home of the Aggies, it's close to home, literally.
Awesome. I moved to the US in 2012, and it's half personal reason, half like professional aspiration. So I got married very early on. I got married when I was still in university. And with my high school sweetheart. And
I love that.
So by the time like he took a postdoc position when I was working at CICC, and we were already married for a couple of years, and I can't imagine just like living on 2 ends of the globe as the married couple for just a couple of years. And that's kind of the personal reason. And then professionally, like I had always wanted to go abroad and experience like what's outside of China. And then I travel for work internationally occasionally, but never studied, never worked right outside of China before that. And I'm really curious of what's venture capital industry look like, right? Most of my knowledge is either from research or talking over the phone with folks that are in the US industry. So personal like nudge and also the professional interest and curiosity really was how I decided to quit my job and apply for the MBA program. And my husband went to Stanford, and I drew 100-mile circle from Stanford, and Stanford didn't want me. So I went to Davis, which is exactly 100 miles from Stanford.
Yep.
So very lovely town. I biked everywhere. And that has been a couple of good years.
That's amazing. And I'm sure what seemed like, let's go for a couple years and kind of see how it goes. Now, fast forward, it's been 14 years and you've made a home for yourself in the Bay Area.
Unlike many of my MBA classmates, I didn't want to pivot, because I feel like I was lucky enough to find my career aspiration and passion in LP. Even though everybody around me, my friends in investment banking, consulting, or, asset management with bigger firms, they always thought, oh, venture LP feels like a very niche area. But I feel grateful that I, somehow through the early works back in Beijing, I was able to find my passion. So I knew when I came into US that I was not looking for pivot. I want to continue to be a LP, continue to be want to be in the venture space. So easier for me to find where I go. So immediately I know, okay, this is what I need to do, and I need to find who are the organizations that I'm interested in.
Yeah, I love that. And I guess what I'm curious to learn, right, is like you have such incredible pattern recognition just from being in the industry for so long. But at that point, I'm curious, what were some of the first things that you noticed? I'm sure there was some things that were similar between the markets that you're investing in and the allocator base you're working with, and then you move to the US and you start working with legacy partners. What were some of the things that were very similar? And then what were some things that really took you some time to have to adapt to moving from the Chinese market to the US market?
I feel like personally, a lot of the adaptation that I had to navigate is how I can authentically build my network here in the US. So there's a lot of similarities, in terms of how the business is conducted, how the innovation is initiated, entrepreneur journey. We can resonate with that. Manager selection, we can always do our research. We can always, understand the GPs. But essentially it's about deeply understand the people who are behind the funds, who are behind the startup businesses. So I personally feel like I had to find the right way that feels authentic to me to, get to know people, expand my network, and build that resonance with people that I'm in relationship, in conversation with. That's probably one of the biggest initial adaptation.
It's super helpful, and everyone talks about it, but to your point, we're in a very relationship-driven industry and ecosystem where even with a lot of these AI tools that are being built now, it's very difficult to change the authenticity of those relationships. Which there's unfortunately no shortcut. There's social clubs and different things that can help accelerate it. But there's no shortcut for those interactions. But I do know that you're a Kauffman Fellow, right? You've been a part of that society. You stay active. I'm curious, how was that a proponent for your career and a catalyst for these relationships that you require to be an active part of being an allocator?
Kauffman Fellows program has been super, super helpful. And actually, before I even joined Next Legacy, I signed up for an online class called Venture Deals that was sponsored by Kauffman Fellows program. And
oh, cool.
Clint and Mariam at Wulu Ventures were the lecturers when I would participate in the online class. That was first how I heard about Kauffman Fellows program. And once I joined our team, and turns out my partner, Ben Choi, he's one of the OG Kauffman Fellows. And
no way.
From class 11. Yeah. And then after a few years, my other partner, Kelly, she also joined the Kauffman Fellows program, and she was from class 21. So I had always wanted to join the society, and also we have team members in there. I got even more understanding about this community. So I joined class 23 back in 2018. And just in light of how people are open to have peer-to-peer learning among our the fellows, how that helped me to have even a more international holistic perspective in venture, because the class is global. We have like people from all kinds of countries. And the relationship we built through there, which in turn helped me also to, speaking of authentically build the relationship and network,
Yeah.
Kaufman Fellows has been a really helpful catalyst. And I made a lot of great friends through like both the classmates and also fellows in other class. We got to collaborate together and just like really, really helpful, particularly for me thinking about, all the prior network were in China and, really grow and accumulate my network in the US, in other areas of the globe.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. And you mentioned some great names. Clinton, Miriam are two phenomenal investors. Clint is, I love sitting down with him. He's got such an analytical brain towards things that are more art and science. Some would say very much science for the great work that they do. And I'm kind of curious though, we talked about network, but back to pattern recognition, right? So you've seen markets in China, you've seen markets in the US. You can argue we're at another inflection point, right? Where over the last 5 years, certain firms and services like the Cartas of the world, they've lowered barriers to entry. We saw an explosion of venture capital funds, largely driven by abundance of capital in 2020 and 2021. And now we're seeing this retrenchment in a lot of the innovation that we're seeing across the AI sector. But the output of that is almost polarized, where you've seen a lot of, I think it's like 75% of total capital has gone to 20 firms. And so you see this really stretching and elongating of the category. And so that's probably too much leading the witness, but I am curious, from everything that you've seen, where do you see the category heading next? What are some of those inflection points? And in some cases too, like where do you see it staying the same? And how do you view the opportunities that you're looking at, especially being specialists within this specific space?
Oh, important and great questions on top of our minds, right? Like, I feel like certainly our industry has evolved a lot. And to your point, particularly now, in the AI native era, like we are also constantly thinking about, how as a venture only LP, we should navigate in this environment. How should we think about building our portfolio thoughtfully to capture the opportunities looking forward? And you touch base on like a lot of the capital concentrated in small number of big firms, which actually I feel like is because following of the amount of capital that are in this handful of now breakout or the leading AI native companies, and what does that leaves, say, the space for smaller, earlier emerging managers? How does that make sense for all the other emerging young AI native startups as they navigating their cap table, their investors for their scaling? The way we are thinking about it, obviously, we are still constantly in discussion. And if I'm putting my portfolio construction hat on as an LP, like, we like that in our portfolio, we will have a diversified exposure and allocation into different profiles of managers that have different approaches, probably different areas of emphasis and their superpower. Like currently in our portfolio, we probably roughly have a quarter-ish of our capital in, we say, those platform venture firms, where currently we see a lot of, Anthropic, like SpaceX, like OpenAI, a lot of these like, giant big tech companies that, these platform, venture firms have invested, actually through multiple stages and benefit from it. And they also have a much broader market coverage, where in almost every vertical or thesis area, you will see some leading companies that will be covered by these firms. We think that's great for a few of the factors. One is like, it's great for us to continue to make sure we have to, back to your pattern recognition comments, is you would like to have the holistic views and the market knowledge and perspective through the coverage of all these companies. And now that the AI business also have much faster velocity and scale, right? Actually, in certain investment and deals, if you actually bet it on the right company, the return profile can still look pretty attractive, even at the $1 billion fund size. I know people often talk about, will the $1 billion fund size may continue to generate great return? It's a hard math problem, I would say, for sure. But like, we also saw our $1 billion fund size managers, if they are really the top ones, they can still continue to deliver. But that's not like, that's only, a quarter each of our portfolio. We think there's still opportunities for the classic venture capital firms where they have, long enough history, but they, as a firm, may be very focused. They don't have multiple strategy. They are either domain experts in, say, enterprise infrastructure, or fintech or consumer tech. Like, they have their edge and differentiation. That the founders value their domain expertise, and they naturally have their authentic relationship with the founders in the sectors or domains that they are, focusing on. We think there's space for them actually to be early, be focused, and continue to perform well. And we also have a dedicated emerging manager from the fund, that we back funds that in their fund 1, 2, 3s, that tend to be a little bit earlier in their stage, pre-seed, seed A, and tend to be running smaller size fund. I would say in this space, it is challenge in terms of fundraising, like, competition in getting to the runs, like, for sure, right? Like, very competitive, and challenge. But I feel like, many of us, is very optimistic person. Like, you have to in this industry, and that helps us to identify the opportunities, right? Where those opportunities are. I think for this type of manager, which we continue to want to make sure we have allocation and position for them in our portfolio, is like, if they really finding their angle of building that early trust with the founder, and being that early help to the founder in their initial journey of the entrepreneurship, like, that can help them to identify and get into the next generation of Anthropic or AI applications at a very early stage. Even if some of these companies may not eventually become, a few $100 billion of the scale, may get exit in a few $100 million of the acquisition. Like, now the M&A market is super active, as example. Like, that can still serve really well for some of these like smaller players. But you have to find the right angle. Like a lot of the manager I really resonate and respect, like they are taking a very community driven approach, and they craft a very like trusted community around themselves. It could be, technical operators that are in their late 20s, early 30s, as example, or,
Yeah.
or really crafted, trusted community through thought leadership. As another example. So that's kind of no concrete answer to all that you say, but it's honest how, we think about our portfolio construction, where we would spend time and where the future of opportunity, I think, will continue to have, support for the cohort of the platform firms, the cohort of the classic, like, focused domain experts of the VC firms. And I'm also very hopeful to see more and more like high quality, dedicated, persistent emerging managers and micro VCs capture, their niche to support the entrepreneur journey and also support their fund returns.
Yeah, honestly, I appreciate the breadth of it because it's very helpful for me and for anyone who's listening in. Just seeing how you break up the portfolio and your exposure and the buckets that you have, and I guess staying within the emerging manager bucket, I've developed a lot of empathy for allocators, right? Because you have sheer quantity, you have the largest quantity of funds to evaluate. But from your ticket size, it's one of the smaller tickets that you have in your total allocation. So you tend to spend more of your time on a smaller position, and that can be really challenging. So I'm curious from your perspective. You mentioned community as being important. You mentioned we've heard this in the past as like zone of genius, but like what is your specialty that you can really outperform on? I'm curious, are there another 2 or 3 examples of I'd say check boxes out of the way, obviously track record, making sure that you've got all of the policies and things in line, assuming that's all in order. What are some of those like intangibles? What are the things that really get you excited about a particular emerging manager, I guess outside of community and specialty?
We don't really think too much about the check size for managers when it comes to the community and relationship building. From the portfolio construction perspective, for sure, right? We need to make sure we thoughtfully execute our portfolio construction, where we tend to write like 1 to 5 million commitment size for emerging managers as a start, and then we grow with them over time. And many of them actually over the years graduated into our flagship fund of fund, the more established positions, the firms where we can write like 15 20 million like core commitment size. We think about that from the portfolio construction side, but from the where I spend the time, where we engage with our community and build that relationship, we don't think too much about that. Essentially, is the only reason we have the different check size is what is best suited to the underlying managers, depending on their fund size, their fund cycle, or how that may,
Gotcha.
And in terms of community and relationship, like it's all next legacy commitment. It's all next legacy GP managers in our community. And we actually are engaging with our GPs and helping them, support them through a full flywheel of Next Legacy community. At the beginning, I talked about Next Legacy. We represent the community of philanthropists, nonprofits, athletes, celebrities, influencers, and a lot of times we will listen, like, what our GPs need, right? What our GPs may find helpful through not just our team, but also our community of investor bases. Sometimes it could be their personal philanthropic interest. great. We involve them in some of our philanthropy focused events, and having that peer-to-peer learning with the other philanthropic investors, organizations, how to think about where to spend time to pick my nonprofit causes, or how to be a good nonprofit board member, or that if their portfolio companies want certain help, say marketing or business development, some PR, some of our athletes and celebrity members could, we can facilitate the collaboration, and they can help the underlying companies. So we really build that trust and relationship, and that continue to deepen that collaboration through a lot of these community-driven activities. And similar to our founders also, we also have a co-investment program, and we collaborate with our GPs to co-invest, and the founders in our community, actually both the founders directly in our direct investment program, and the founders who the GPs may feel that they could benefit from the community, we can also involve them. We host a lot of events. They are not necessarily the investment oriented events. They can be very family friendly, Super Bowl watch party. They can be like fun sports oriented events. They can be just like no agenda, like dinner, or single table Jeffersonian dinner. We engage in a certain topic. So that's kind of how we think about relationship, building that trust, and continue to strengthening our bonding with the GPs.
I love that, and so much alignment with our own philosophy around community building and having that. And I would argue that now is more important time than any, where AI can generate content, it can generate email outreach, all these different things, that the community building, the face-to-face interaction is more important than it's ever been before. And love that about the community that y'all have built. And one thing I'd love to learn from you is, you were part of this blending of two different worlds, which is somewhat rare in the allocator space. Your role at Legacy Partners, and then NextPlay, two different ecosystems. One more philanthropic, where you had started your career, and then another one still philanthropic, but more towards athletes. But the missions seem to align and coincide just from two different worlds. So I'm curious, what was that process like? Putting that together, and then how has it been? Since the merger took place about 3 years ago.
You actually summarize it very well. It's like both prior firms are very mission driven, even though if you look at the room of the investors, they can be very different, but very mission driven and value aligned. That's a actually big drive of why we decided to combine into Next Legacy, and we intentionally didn't use venture or capital. We used Next Legacy partners to really think about building the community together. And the origin of this actually is really started from two close LP friends were brainstorming and discussing how we can collaborate on a deeper level during the pandemic.
Wow.
Two teams knew each other for over 10 years, before we actually merged together. And we were talking about how we can continue to serve our industry better, how we can we exchange notes, we collaborate, but we were there must be a deeper way we can work together, and we can join forces and then make a bigger impact to the industry. So initially we ideated on co-GP for an emerging manager from the fund. We both prior firms had been investing in emerging managers for many years, but we want to make sure it be a more structurized and even dedicated program. And that conversation eventually, we're wow, we have a lot more to do on the community side.
Yeah.
We have a lot to do on the established manager side. We have a lot to do on, the value add to the underlying GPs and portfolio companies, right? So it's all organically happened, and we decided and announced our merger 3 years ago. Now, I feel like the past 3 years just flew by, and now feels like so grateful and privileged that we can continue to serve our combined mission-driven community. And with, like our philanthropic investors have a lot of fun conversations with our athletes community, and many of our athletes members are already or thinking about philanthropic impact also. So community-wise feels like it is expanded, combined, and also continue to even like glue together with that mission. And manager portfolio and founders, now it's all Next Legacy supporting, early stage venture folks in the ecosystem.
It's so impressive too, because there's so many folks who will talk the talk, and you go to a website and it talks about mission and values. There's very few firms that actually walk the talk. I think the number that I had seen is over 2 billion of philanthropy through legacy partners and through the partnerships that you have both with your firm as well as the LPs that you work with.
Now we just crossed over $3 billion of the distribution.
That's incredible. That's incredible. That's real tangible money, and so it's not just how you back managers, how you think about investing, and we're big proponents of you can do good and do well, and I don't think a lot of people understand the concept, but what you all have built is a wonderful example of doing good and doing well. You're generating real alpha, you're backing real firms, but you're finding ways of recontributing that into the ecosystems that mean the most. And I'm curious, have you seen that accelerate post-acquisition and merger of the firms? And in what ways has that accelerated?
A lot of ways, like on one hand, like feels like the industry itself is accelerated. On the other hand, it feels like the community flywheel I just talked about a couple minutes ago, like how the collaboration among our philanthropists, athletes, GPs, founders really also accelerated like the a lot of the internal decision for us to double down capital in certain areas that we really have higher conviction. Hopefully we also played a small part in accelerating the underlying portfolio companies progress. And I also feel like people now are more mindful and also taking concrete actions in driving the impact, both through the business and also through generating liquidity through the innovative channels, right? Like we are still like IPOs is still opening a little bit, but for bigger companies, but we see a lot of activities in all different elements in the industry that accelerated a lot of these milestones that we fortunate enough to see and experience.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I feel like I could talk to you all day. We've just scratched the surface on a lot of the great work that you do, but being mindful of your time, I'll shift over into a quick lightning round of questions for you. And, kind of back putting your allocator LP hat on, especially from the decades now that you've done this across geographies, across different cycles. What is something that you've seen almost become habitual within either emerging managers or venture funds that you wish would just change, whether it's an outreach strategy or tactic? What is something that you feel like is bad behavior, but it's almost become habitual that you would change?
Incorporate the active listening learnings into the actions. Because oftentimes we now luckily are empowered by a lot of the AI and technology. You can be very efficient in LP outreach or communication through all different kinds of automations and tools. But if this is often my advice to GP friend, if you already spend time to speak with LP or connect with LP, like really track your learning from the active listening and made the follow-ups that you would have with LPs. So if the LP talked about, I'm venture only and early stage focused, it doesn't make sense for growth stage managers to continue to give monthly or quarterly update as one example, but there's many more examples where I feel like the GP's time can be spent much more effectively elsewhere if they just like incorporate the learnings from active listening and also ask questions.
Yeah.
Right? That is a good input for that learning, like what's the LP's focus, what's their emphasis and priorities in their work, in their life, and that can help to really have the relationship building in a continued way that elevate and build up from the prior conversations versus just like very generic, like you kind of stay over here if you don't do those like more tailor-made follow-ups.
Yeah, I love that. It's to your point, being an active listener, show that you have that, but also it's a two-way street. This is not just an exchange of capital. This is a long-term partnership. And I guess to that end, what are some things that you wish were more common from GPs or from people that you're meeting? Whether it's a specific example of a follow-up that resonated, or if it's just more is something that you wish was more common within our industry.
This question makes me think of about a few of the occasions I was really impressed or appreciate the question or the asked or the topics were touch base on, is that genuine curiosity from the GP managers that they want to understand like why we are doing this. Like a lot of the times in the conversations to GP and LP conversation talk about, okay, like what's your AUM, like what's your fund size, how many managers in the portfolio, which are very important. But like, for example, I really appreciate your question that we touch base on in this podcast about who are our community, like why we decided to merge and why we decided to come together and build the next legacy to serve our community. That matters for the long term when we are really discussing about not just the fund investment, but also the partnership will last, over a decade or decades long. And that curiosity and that genuine care about why, LP sitting across table doing this, like why we can collaborate and partnership to invest in our areas of focus, but also like what are the causes and reason that we both want to do that. I would appreciate and the GPs have a step back and have a more holistic understanding of the impact that we are working together to have.
Yeah, I can really appreciate that. And I think the same way that you feel with GPs is what we feel with founders. When founders, it's just not a stage fit, but then you keep getting the emails and it's like something's clearly not clicking, or vice versa, right? Where it's just this capital exchange. So you say, all right, let's keep in touch with these other things, and you don't hear for 6 months, and then you're like, all right, you've got 2 weeks to send a wire. It's just it doesn't make sense. And so I can appreciate all of that. I want to be really mindful of your time. I feel like I can keep learning a ton from you. But Jesse, thank you so much. Any parting words, anything that you want to leave folks with as they're listening here? And also, if there's a good way for people to get in touch with you, you don't have to share email and phone numbers, but the best way to get in touch with you and the team.
First of all, thank you, Marcus. Thank you for what you do. And thank you for a fun conversation. And
Same.
Appreciate and look forward to continue the collaboration and discussion along the way. And happy to stay in touch with folks And my email is very easy, just Jessie, my first name, at nextlegacy.com. So happy to get connected, happy to be a thought partner, and happy to explore future collaboration and partnerships with folks and in our ecosystem. And just like, this is interesting time. I look forward to just like learning and exchanging thoughts with you, with like smart minds in our industry, and just like learning every day is what I feel like we can land on.
Yes, that's the best part. Is it's never a dull day. Certainly not now. Jessie, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your email. For anyone who's listening to this point of the podcast or the recording, that's your Easter egg, is that you can reach out to Jessie. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having on and sharing all these words of wisdom.
Thank you, Marcos.
And that's a wrap on another episode of LP Uncovered. Thank you so much to Jessie for joining us today from Next Legacy Partners. Such an incredible combination of Next Play and Legacy Partners, really focusing on doing good, doing well, community-driven approach for philanthropists, for athletes, for influencers, for entertainers. It's a really one-of-a-kind platform, and their results are really showing today. And then also, we've learned so much from Jessie, from her background, building fund of funds in China to deploying capital here for such a long time period, especially in such an interesting stage of today with where we are with breakthroughs in AI. I hope you learned a lot from today's episode. I certainly did. We've got a bunch more episodes coming your way with a lot of other great allocators, so make sure to tune in. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks so much for joining today. See you soon.